Hi, Sandra here, the misophonia therapist. And in today's video, I am just going to go right back to basics. And I have been asked this a couple of times as a result of the content that I have been producing. So people have said to me, have I got misophonia? I seem to have an aversion to certain types of sound. So do you think it could be misophonia? Now, of course, it's important to remember at this stage, my role as a therapist is not to diagnose, but I can certainly give you 3 possible pointers to decide whether or not it possibly is something that you have and you might want to seek support or a confirmation of the suspicion that you may have misophonia. So number 1, the type of sound that bothers you. Now, a lot of people say how they feel annoyed or distressed or angry at certain types of sound, commonly find bothersome. So things like noisy lorries thundering past the house. It could be something like, neighbours having a party, or a dog barking, or people shouting in an angry way. So those kinds of sounds, especially if they're loud, would bother most people. So with misophonia, the type of sound that might bother you would be something that maybe many people that you know wouldn't necessarily be bothered by. And I don't want to reel off a huge list of sounds because I don't want to be triggering anybody here, but usually it's sounds that are more related to people eating or breathing or making repetitive noises. And these sounds do not necessarily have to be loud. That's the key. They could be very soft sounds, and they will still have the ability to make you feel incredibly distressed. And that brings me to number 2, the level of response that you will feel. So going back to point 1, yes, a lot of people find noisy, irritating sounds irritating, annoying. It could even be quite stress-provoking. But with misophonia, the response that many people have is strongly related to our autonomous nervous system going into fight or flight. So you will feel feelings of panic, feelings of rage, indescribable anger or disgust. And these feelings are not just annoyance or irritation or even mild anger. Often it's extreme anger, and it comes on incredibly suddenly, even at the prospect of hearing this sound. So that's how you can draw the conclusion that maybe you have misophonia when you think about hearing regular, everyday sounds, generally made by other people, and you have an extreme reaction to it. So it may be completely out of proportion to how many other people in your life may react to hearing sounds. And number 3, you take steps to adjust your life around these noises so you won't hear them, or you'll reduce the prospect of hearing them because they invoke such a strong emotional response, and it's so unpleasant that you cannot possibly expose yourself. So many people with misophonia will find themselves missing out on certain things like being in relationships. They might be very nervous about buying a new home in case that the neighbours are noisy. They might miss out on an active social life. They might take steps to avoid being in any situation where they cannot control whether or not they will hear the sound. So they're just 3 ways that you might be able to conclude that misophonia could be the condition that you have. So you are emotionally triggered by normal, everyday sounds, usually made by people. The response you feel is more conducive to the extreme anxiety that's more commonly associated with people when they face danger or risk to their safety, and you will go to great lengths to avoid hearing those sounds. So I hope this video has helped some of you who may be watching my content and you aren't too sure whether or not it's misophonia that you have. I think it's really positive that so much more awareness seems to be being raised now. And if you think that you may have it, obviously, as a therapist, I might be able to help you. And there are ways that you can contact me, generally by sending me a direct message. But also, if you feel it may be beneficial to you to get a diagnosis, then your first port of call should be your GP, doctor, or primary healthcare giver. So, as ever, when you see my content and you aren't already a subscriber or a follower, please consider doing so. Bye for now.